What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Panthers Nation Network. Another week, another loss. Jason left us here in our misery.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing he did, though, because honestly, nobody wanted to see what we saw last night. I'm not going to lie to you. So, I mean, it's better to watch that from the crib, man, honestly.
100%, to be 100% candid, last night was one of the lowest points I've probably seen our team in the bank.
So what was the difference, Jason, for you from sitting in the stadium watching it go down to then watch it on TV?
Really on TV, what I got a chance to see is actually how everything developed and what it looked like, just like above the ground. So I got that eagle eye view, and what I saw was not impressive. I know we're going to get into it today, but yeah, it was not a pretty sight last night.
Yeah, I mean, just from the jump, and this is not something that I was surprised about, just even the atmosphere already off the rip. Like, we knew Saints fans traveled well, but, I mean, the bowl, it was half and half, and that's being generous.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, we still haven't given the fans enough to be excited about. And, I mean, even with the new coach and the new quarterback, even from what we saw in the preseason, people were already worried about the things that we saw then. And this just kind of carried over, and that, especially after that loss last week against Atlanta. Not necessarily that you lost, but how you lost. I think a lot of people are definitely questioning the hires that we made and the decisions that are being made in game by the coaching staff.
I would disagree with that, though, because it's not like, I mean, for the majority of people that are buying tickets to this game, they're not buying it week of, you would hope. I mean, for me, seeing the schedule, you have a Monday night game for the first time in 5 years. You've got a number one quarterback. You've got new coaching staff. Like, I'm imagining the majority of the tickets from the Panthers fans were bought before the preseason. Now, there's still the, very glaring epidemic of people getting PSLs, selling them and never going to these games, selling them to Saints fans, what have you, scalpers, whatever it may be. But for me, I'm like, there was enough to be excited about regardless of the Falcons loss in my mind. Now, had the, preseason not happened at all, that stadium would have been filled. I think a lot of people, lost their steam once we hit the preseason, and then this Brian Burns situation hasn't really helped, at least for, some more of the fans that are kind of on the fence about going to these games, or not people that live in Charlotte that have the chance to, buy on a whim. I think that kind of created a big gap where it's, kind of drained the air out of the balloon to start off the season.
I think when you look at it, man, it's about the faith, right? It's the faith of the organization right now. We don't have it. I mean, look at the product we've had on the field since preseason to now. None of it has come to fruition the way we thought it was going to come to fruition. Yeah, we thought preseason was going to be rough, right? And we did. It was rough. It was clunky. But then that's carried over into the regular season. And now that we're in the regular season, we're not looking polished at all. I mean, from the Atlanta game to last night, we looked way worse last night than we did in the first game, and you would have thought it would have been the opposite, right? So to me, there's a lot to go around, a lot of blame to go around, but it lays at the feet of Scott Fitterer and Frank Reich. There's no way around it.
We were having this argument, in the text and before we were recording. I mean, we see that Rob was able to move the ball downfield for the most part. There was only a handful of 3-and-outs throughout the game. Where do we put more of this blame on, especially as far as the offense goes?
I'm starting to lean towards the play calling. For me, I saw it in preseason. It's still happening now. Where whenever Frank Reich is calling the plays, I still feel like we're in preseason mode. I still don't feel like we're in attack mode. I still don't feel like we're actually trying to put together drives to actually go score. There's no sense of aggressiveness and really trying to utilize what Bryce does well, which is his playmaking. But again, I mean, no play action boost, not anything that gets Bryce on the move to get your receivers going, because we've already established what this group is, and it's just not what the standard should be for an NFL receiving group. And right now, just not a whole lot of creativity. I mean, I'm looking at Laviska Shenault only getting one touch. Terrace Marshall not on the field at all. And honestly, I thought we all came into the season thinking that Terrace Marshall would be the guy that would have to really elevate his game in order for this offense to be anything of note. With neither of those two guys touching the field, I have a lot of worries about what this offense will look like in general, because Mingo, Chark, and Thielen isn't a good enough group to win you many games in this league.
No, it's not. And the fact of the matter is that wasn't even the group that was on the field half the time. There was multiple times where Mingo, Laviska, and TMJ were off the field. They were on the sidelines. I'm like, what package are we running right now? You'd have, Tremble and Hurst in there, or Tremble and Thomas in there, and then maybe throw in, Chark once or twice, or Thielen once by himself. Like, with this core, you're not supposed to be running one wide receiver sets in any way, shape, or form. I don't even care if we're running the ball. There should at least be two wide receivers out there. And it's like if you watched football in the state of North and South Carolina over the last 5-6 years, specifically the Panthers and the Gamecocks, you'd think that the halfback read was the only way you could start a drive off in football. I don't understand it. It's translated from coaching staff to coaching staff in both programs, and I can't tell you how many times, I can't count on my hands and my feet the amount of times we started off a drive with a halfback read. And I'm sorry, but Miles Sanders is not the guy to get that done. It's not going to work. You know, maybe McCaffrey could take that kind of offense and actually gain, 5-6 yards. But where McCaffrey was, fighting to keep going to get past that second level, Sanders is fighting just to get to the first level, and then to get through that first point of contact. I mean, he's not that kind of break your line type of running back. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and especially with the inconsistencies right now we're having at guard with Zavala and now K. Mays. We're teaching a young group of guys to try to play at this level. And clearly, K. Mays needed more time to develop. Zavala's played well in his first week, but now after his first week, he goes from right guard to left guard. So it changes everything about this offensive line. So, and we saw a lot of those inconsistencies, play a part last night.
I mean, you guys hinted on it. It was the personnel, but also I think behind that, you talk about the scheme. I don't know how many times we tried to run it through the middle and we just kept hitting the brick wall. I mean, you could call it on first, you can call it on second, call it on third and long, third and short. We were getting stuff. I didn't see any sort of rhythm. I didn't see any sort of imagination. I mean, I think I said it in the text. To me, Reich is running a stale offense. This is not the 1990s. You can't just bang it in the middle and think, okay, every once in a while we'll throw it out. Okay, the run doesn't work. We're going to throw these short routes and these little dink and dunks. We needed a more dynamic offense. And I'm starting to feel like he does need to relinquish the reins a bit because, yes, you are the head coach. Yes, you are offensive mind. But you hired these other coaches to do their job, and you're not allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I think that whether it's, still kind of pulling back from being scapegoated in Indianapolis where he's trying to maybe prove himself. I mean, it's early. I don't expect him to give up the reins before the bye week, if we're being completely honest. Like, I really don't. I mean, the fact of the matter is, they are able to score points. It's just far and few in between. And, your defense is able to hold up for a long amount of time. We can see, obviously, where the wear and tear, runs its course. But I think it's interesting what you said about, the scheme, because all we heard about from Reich and from Brown and from Miles Sanders was this was a very Steichen-esque offense. I don't see Shane Steichen's, print anywhere on this offense.
It's funny because remember we had this discussion a while ago when they first hired the staff, and the first thing I said was, do we not think it may be too many cooks in the kitchen? Like we talk, you got Frank Reich and his offense that he wants to run. You have Thomas Brown coming from Sean McVay's offense. You got Josh McCown, who's been around the league long enough, probably has an idea how he would want to run things as well. And I'm still thinking that I would probably want to roll with the offense Thomas Brown wants to roll with, because that offense was able to, pop off with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp at a point in time before there was Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp there. Like, this offense has been able to transcend no matter what the quarterback or what the receiver group was. I mean, you even look at it now with Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. Still able to be, functional, still able to put up numbers. Right now, we're in a spot where we don't seem like we can manage, any of that. But I don't want to say it's completely because of we signed the wrong group, because these are still NFL caliber guys. It's just maybe there needs to be a change of ideology and philosophy that I think that Thomas Brown will be able to bring to the table. Not that he should call plays, but maybe incorporate a lot more of what he likes and what he came from into this offense.
I agree with you, because I think that they have those. It's like you're trying to put all those, like you said, those cooks in the kitchen, the ladles in the pot, but you don't have the specific ingredients to do and replicate what made those things successful. You do have a pocket passing quarterback, but not a true pocket passing quarterback. That's not what we are getting him for. You want the playmaking ability, the ability to improvise on the fly, which you saw a couple times, but then to the point of where the receivers aren't open. He was running that one scramble when he came to the left. He was looking for somebody to get open. Yeah. You don't have Jameson Williams anymore that's going to run, different directions like he's in the backyard. You've got Adam Thielen, who cannot deviate off of his route whatsoever. He's going to run the exact same route that he's supposed to be running. Same with some other guys. I mean, if you look at like Shane Steichen, that offense was its most powerful once they brought in A.J. Brown to offset it. You have your big, physical, faster receiver. We don't have that kind of guy. We're hoping we do, and that TMJ or Chark can develop into that kind of guy, and I think that's why he was really, leaning on Chark to be the playmaking wide receiver, but you don't have that right now. And so I think that's where you get some of these issues. And then you run your offense like you did in Indianapolis. Well, you're running that with an all-pro running back when it was successful. We don't have an all-pro running back or the line to facilitate that. I like that you're talking about, JB. You know, I mean, you can't run, like, when we had the, you know, it was the fake screen to Laviska on the one side, or to Laviska on the one side, and the screen to Chuba on the other. You should not be having your backup offensive guards running out trying to block people. That's not going to work. You need to have someone, you need to have a package that's going to be able to go all at once.
Well, also with that, I was having a conversation earlier with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about the game last night. You know, we've been struggling with the run, right? We've been struggling with that side of the line. So why would you not run a 2 tight end set? Why would you not have a 2 tight end set? You put Ian Thomas on one side to help Icky, because Icky's struggling tremendously. Then you can have Trimble on the other side. You also have the check downs with Miles Sanders. I didn't see any of that evolution of the offense that he talked about in preseason. To me, this offense, is nothing to be excited about. I mean, even in Atlanta, they ran a little bit more diversion. They let a little bit more cat out of the bag. But last night, it was very vanilla. It was nothing that I saw that could have made it a success for what we were up against. I mean, the running game worked, the first 5 minutes of the game? We deviated from it, and we didn't put anything else in there in between. We didn't use Laviska Shenault. To your point, Shontis, you know, all we heard all season, oh, he's Debo-esque. We're going to have some Debo-type runs. Where have we seen it, right? We have not utilized the weapons that we have, quote-unquote weapons, right now. And then I don't even want to get on the secondary last night. We can get to that in a minute because you know I got a whole lot to say about the secondary last night.
I think as far as the offense goes, because, again, we keep kind of equating it to things they've tried to pull from, Bryce Young can be the guy that we've seen, you know, Jalen Hurts be in Philadelphia. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think where the inconsistencies come across is that they're trying to make things more comfortable for him, but I think it's doing the exact opposite. He was holding the ball way too long, a good amount of times, and he was going through third and, you know, fourth progressions. And you're right, he's got no help. I don't know why Giovanni Ricci isn't back in the backfield blocking, giving him some pass protection over there, because, like you said, Icky is just. He started slow last year, and so I'm still trying to hold my expectations, but it seems like that's those same kind of issues again.
I will say that Saints front is a good front.
Oh, it absolutely.
I watched them against Tennessee, seeing what they did against us. Like, there's no mistaking. Granderson, he had a phenomenal first half.
He came out of nowhere.
he had a great half. And again, that front is that is a defense where I did say coming into the season would be the best defensive group in that division, and they're overall the best team in the division, hands down. Because when you go through quarterback and then the guys they found on offense like Rashid Shaheed, like again being able to add another speed guy on top of a guy like Chris Olave, and Michael Thomas seems to be grinding back into shape. Like this is like we haven't even seen Michael Thomas fully hit his stride yet. Like he's a guy that hasn't played in almost 2 years, so they got a lot of things working for him. We did play a good team last night. We do have to remember all of that, but like you say, there still has to be more. I mean, it's still more work to be done on our end, though.
I'll say that if you're a backup or a practice squad player, there's no other team you want to play than the Panthers. That kid looked like he was an all-pro first team, you know, running back, getting 2 touchdowns and barreling through. I kept looking on the roster. I'm like, this kid is not on the roster. Who is this? And I finally found him down in the practice squad. I'm like, you got to be joking. He signed today. He signed the day of the game, and then had to replace Williams when he went out. I'm like, all right, well, there you go. But, I agree. I mean, the Saints are not a bad football team. You look at their wide receivers, too. I mean, they have the speed. They have the ability. And Derek Carr, like I said, was going to be able to pick apart. Like, he just needs that time frame. Their line is probably one of the more questionable things on their team, which I think is causing some people to be a bit too comfortable and confident with our pass rush. Honestly, with how lacking their offensive line is, I wanted to see more. I'm excited from what I saw, but don't expect that to happen in Seattle or Detroit.
No, these are better. Those are definitely better groups than that we're about to see in the upcoming weeks than we saw last night. That was the one group that I said, like, if we can get 4 to 5 sacks, that should happen against the Saints, and it did. But that's a bad group. Honestly, that's probably that's definitely a worse group than our group right now. Yeah. But that's probably the worst group I've seen play across the NFL so far this season. Probably that in Houston.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Titans, the pass rushers, pretty non-existent. And, the Falcons, we saw there was some pressure there in the first half, but then, of course, it kind of went away. Whereas in this game, we had it consistently. Something's up with Burns, and that's got to be what they're waiting on right now, because he does not look 100%. And the more I think back to it, and the more I look at it, I'm like, is it a scheme thing, or is he just getting gassed as the second half goes on?
No, he was not 100% coming out of the first half. He was favoring his leg.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't 1,000%. So I mean, I'm going to equate it to that. I think the one thing that we have to realize too, our defense was on the field way too long last night. I mean, we were three and out, left and right. Bryce couldn't get a rhythm. Our defense would come off, get some water, and we were right back on the field. So, you know, you got to equate it to that. It was a long evening for them to be out there, especially from the fact of the matter, we went down one of our captains. I mean, there was a lot of things going on behind all that with Shaq going down. You bringing in KGH, who balled out last night. Got to give him kudos. Hats off to him. He got in and did work. Luvu did work. I'm really proud to see those guys step up and really make an effort to keep us in the game. I mean, y'all did y'all see YGM? He got back there and got us a partial sack. You know what I mean? I'm not even going, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
He's working to quiet the people on this app because he actually got a sack.
No, absolutely, bro. I mean, and you started to see in that nickel rush package, bro. He played a big part.
Yeah.
Houston had a night.
Yep. And Chin.
Well,
yeah.
See, the crazy part with Chin is I was looking back at it. He played 38% of the defensive snaps.
I was going back through the replay. I'm like, damn, I don't see Jeremy Chin.
He wasn't out there.
I was a little concerned. I'm like, man, I haven't heard Chin's name. I've seen him a couple times, and like you said, he only played 38% of the snaps, so that makes total sense now.
For a guy that is on a contract year, supposed to be your X factor spur, position. You cannot have him on the field that less. Now, maybe he was, now I can understand needing to sub him out to then allow for more coverage, but that's what I kept talking about. And what we've been talking about is the issue with Jeremy Chin. If you're having to take him off the field to bring in someone else to cover, that is not good. Either make him a linebacker, and then we don't have to worry about it, or get somebody who can cover.
Because this versatility, this quote-unquote versatility,
it's
doesn't
not there
work if he can't actually be versatile and be out there to cover. I mean, I saw you plenty of times. Troy Hill's coming in for Jeremy Chin.
Yeah.
And he's playing in that linebacker. I saw a few times last night where Troy Hill's lining up at linebacker.
Yeah.
Like that. Like we're not for real right now. Like come on.
If you see 14 in your second level of defense.
Fair though, but to be fair though, I mean, we had to call an audible that we weren't expecting with Shaq going out. So it was all hands on deck at that point. I don't think Evero in his scheme and what he thought was going to go on, there was no way he knew if a Shaq Thompson goes down, what do I do real time? And I think he did a really good job in adjusting how we played the defense and who the personnel was in critical moments.
I agree with you on that point, but this is where we keep talking about the depth, especially in defense. We talked about it. We said a few weeks ago, the biggest foe for this team is going to be the health. It's going to be the injury report, because this is another big issue now. Now, like you said, I'm liking the Samoan duo. It's working out pretty well. We got Luvu and Grugier Hill are going really well together, and he stepped up and did what we were hoping he would do when we picked him up.
Right.
The same kind. I think he has the ability to be kind of like Frankie, another of those under the radar pickups that was impactful where he was, but not getting the playing time. All he needs is the playing time. But that only accounts for, especially in this defense we're running. That's the biggest issue. Is in this defense we're running, your linebackers, you're heavy on your linebackers.
Yeah. Well, now you remember them bringing Deion Jones back.
He's going to get called up regardless.
He's easily getting called up now.
Without question.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted him called up. We wanted him on the game day roster from the rip. So now he'll be able to step in and he'll hopefully be able to provide us with some type of on the defense. Hopefully, I mean, I think he still has good ball left in him. That's a good guy to have on your roster right now, especially with Shaq going down. So hopefully that'll mitigate the injury that we're dealing with Shaq.
Yeah, I think if you have Justin Houston, Deion Jones on your outside, and then you have Kamu Grugier Hill, and then Frankie Luvu on your inside, I still get itchy with Frankie Luvu on the inside. It's not where I love him to be, and I think he gets more impactful when you put him on the outside. So honestly, if I'm thinking about it, and if I'm Evero, I might, and it's gonna be an issue because he is a bit older, but if we're going to do it, I would switch Chin and Houston on the inside. If we're going to do that, or put Chin on the outside and then you have Frankie there. But I would move Justin Houston inside a little bit more. He's used to being able to be in that middle, kind of almost like a shortstop linebacker where he's going from front to back, because you're going to have to do something like that. Or it gets to the point where you're like, okay, do we, bring up some of the other guys that we have? Because the other linebackers, I don't even know half their names, and I'm not even going to, waste breath on them.
Well, the sure shots are going to have to be at the linebacking core, because liability alley definitely were liabilities last night. C.J. Henderson and his twin brother Dante Jackson.
Yeah.
These guys, you leave them in the big moment, you leave them out there in the island. That's my new name for them. That duo is liability alley, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the way that they looked last night is Olave started off slow, but imagine if Olave came out hitting on all cylinders. He had a 200-yard. He could have had a 200-yard night based on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
this was the issue we had. We were telling. I mean, they're the best receiving core in the division and one of the top in the NFC. But you're going to see much better receiving cores as this year goes on.
Yes.
We hit Seattle next week. That's Armageddon right now. I mean, Detroit has come back to life a little bit, come back to earth. No Jameson Williams. That helps you out a little bit, but not too terribly much. And then you continue to go forward. Then you have Miami right after. Miami could put up a 500-yard receiving game.
I ain't watching that game. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, I'm serious. I mean, Miami.
No, Shontis, you're gonna watch it. You're gonna watch it and text me. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna watch it and text me the entire game is what you're gonna do.
I don't know. That may be a date day for me, bro. I mean, I had scheduled something else, bro. Just trying to enjoy my family life.
That's one of the ones I'm gonna go to that game. I'm gonna work that game. At least get paid to be at that nonsense.
Oh, is it here?
Actually, it might be. Yeah.
No, it's in Miami.
It's in
It's
Miami.
in Miami.
Darn,
It's
I
in
can't
Miami.
get that. No, I mean, yeah, that's gonna be the biggest issue. We'll go to the receive the defensive backs, and this is what we knew was gonna happen. I mean, they seemed to hold their own in the beginning only because the Saints weren't opening up that much. They were trying to get the running game established. They were keeping it, close to their hip and not taking shots downfield. There were maybe one or two that I can remember. And of course, the rush helped out a lot. Yeah. Having that rush did cause for some adjustment. But then they can make those adjustments in the second half. I mean, what we have is a first half defensive back room.
Yeah,
that's all we have.
You don't have the horses to take.
That's a good point.
You don't have the horses for the long races, man.
Right.
You saw it. Like you said early on, we got pressure. Everything that Derek Carr threw was short, trying to get the ball out to Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. But once they got Tom, and you had the instances where your D-line couldn't get there, you saw the shot to Chris Olave. You see the shots to Rashid Shaheed. Those plays started to happen more and more as the game progresses, and we just don't have the group to take into a game where we can lock down somebody's number one. And even next week when you go play Seattle, think about the game that we played last year. J.C. Horn had a huge impact on why DK Metcalf did nothing in that game. Had a pick early. That guy's not there. In
a mismatch situation, too.
Right. So, I mean, that guy's not there to take away at least one of their best guys. So, what happens now? Because, I mean, I don't know if Jackson Smith-Njigba still is playing right now.
He's been questionable. So, he had a couple, I think he had a couple touches. But even, we still see Tyler Lockett somehow continuing to be successful in major facets of the game. So that, Njigba's the least of your worries. And that's, one of the supposed to be best wide receiver coming out of this class by most scouts.
I mean, he's an OSU guy, so I believe it.
It's that's if it's not Ole Miss, it's OSU. I mean, they're pulling from two of the best wide receiver schools of the last.
Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Ohio State guys.
Yeah.
So
then you're getting DK Matt. It's gonna be brutal. And so I think not even in terms of, because I'm not necessarily even concerned about stamina, to be completely honest, because Dante and CJ have shown they can go the distance, speed wise. Because they're recovering. They're right on the hip when they're getting burned. They're recovering. It's not a step and a half. It's maybe a half step, but that's all Chris Olave apparently needs to bring in a catch. I mean, that was a ridiculous reception on that one down the sideline. I had no words.
Jack, I can't let you hang yourself on those words real quick. Let me tell you something. Liability.
No, I'm not saying that.
Can't handle. Hold on. I got you. You said recovery, right? They can't handle double moves. Neither one of them. The double move kills Dante. So him trying to recover is him trying to make himself look good for the highlight that he's about to be made on the reel. You know what I mean? Like, end of the day, we've said this since 2 years ago, even before that. Our secondary is a problem.
Oh, it absolutely is.
We have yet to address it. We've yet to address it. I mean, Bell played good last night. I like to see him putting hats on people, making people think twice about coming across the middle, doing those deep posts. He made them think second, and that's why they put Olave out there on the island with Dante or CJ, whoever it was. He ate their lunch. We don't have, and I hate to be this critical this early, but we just do not have a secondary. To me, if I'm a receiver, half as good as DK Metcalf, I'm getting my fantasy points on the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, without a doubt.
End of the day.
I mean, you have every right, though, to be critical of the defense this early because it's the one group that is supposed to have that consistency going forward. I mean, Navarro, we've seen, is clearly a smart enough defensive coordinator where it shouldn't have been incredibly hard to funnel into his system. It's not Bryce Young. It's not this brand new offense. They had the least amount of moving pieces on the defense. They should have been able to take that step. I don't care how many changes in the defensive back group you have. Obviously, it's a very technical position, but it also has a lot to do with instinct. So clearly, the instinct is not developing, and that's what's becoming the big issue. It's why I'm saying, speed, yeah, they have it, but I can tell you, listen, every single coach that's playing us this year can listen right up and listen here. I'll tell you how to beat this Panthers defense. You bait them the entire first half. Go slack on your pass protection. Allow for them to start getting some rushes in. They get a sack or two. The linebackers in the front four are going to start getting itchy. They're going to get excited. They're going to jump the gun, and they're going to go forward. Avero's going to call more blitzes. And then you just run out the clock on these defensive backs. Like I said, then you get through it. Then you see all you need to see from them in that first half. You go watch tape when you're in halftime. All right, we know that we can do a double move on Dante right here, and he's not going to come anywhere near it. We can run this fake skinny post to CJ, and he's going to miss it by a mile. Then, boom, you don't got to score more than 10 points in the first half. You're going to get 24 in the second.
Has that not been the same problem that we had even from Phil Snow to now? Like
that's what I'm saying.
It seemed to carry along with us. Like right now, teams definitely use our speed against us.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely use the play action against us. They use screen game. We're the only team I know that can't stop a screen pass.
No.
Like to save our lives. But, I mean, yeah, it seems like that problem has seemed to transition with us. I mean, I'm like, bro, I thought we've gotten smarter. I thought we added more veterans on the defense. I'm like, I still don't see the growth in the instincts. And I mean, it may be just the lack of maybe we're just too caught up on having Luke Kuechly in our past, and that's what we expect things to look like. We expect guys to be instinctual. We expect guys to sniff plays out well before they're being run, and that's just not realistically how we see the rest of the game, rest of these guys play. But yeah, I just haven't seen our defense grow much. Even under Rivero, I still haven't seen the second half adjustments, and that's been a consistent problem with us for the last 4 seasons. So I mean, it's been pretty much the same.
I think that comes down to the personnel and the depth issue too, right? I mean, we really don't have a lot of depth to even have. And then when we try to draft in those spots, we seem to miss. I mean, J.C. Horn was the best pick we've had in quite some time. But unfortunately, due to his issues, we haven't been able to get a full package or a full season of him being in the lineup that we can say, okay, we've got a legitimate secondary that can go up against some of these larger teams. I think the defensive schemes are absolutely perfect. I think we've got some great personnel. Like I said, KGH, I mean, he's showing up big. I'm really liking, I hate to say it, and I hate to put it out there this early, I'm liking YGM. I'm liking his energy on the sideline. I'm liking his energy when he's in the game. He was on several pressures last night where he was real close to getting sacks. I mean, he got the one that we saw, but he was real close. He's been in there a lot with Derrick Brown, getting busy. So that part I'm okay with. Again, I think when we talk about this long term from a defensive standpoint, the secondary as well as our offensive line are going to be our Achilles heel going late in the season.
I'll tell you another group that I've not been impressed with thus far: the defensive tackles, Shaq Thompson, Deshaun Williams. I thought we were supposed to be a better run stopper. I have not seen that. We had these big guys in the middle. I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna be better. We're not gonna get pushed around as much in the ground game. Tony Jones had no issue breaking through, and neither did Jamal Williams the little amount that he did play. That not improving is definitely a question mark because those signings were supposed to improve that group, and I just haven't seen that.
And I'll piggyback off of that is that the run protection on the outsides as well. That whole point of the 4-3 is supposed to be able to you plug up the middle, but then you still have the ability to contain on the outside. And Taysom Hill is running around like a kid in a candy store on the edge. He's getting outside of tackles, running in between he's not even getting outside the hash marks, and he's picking up 7 yards. I'm like, what? Why is Justin Houston on the field? Why are guys like Frankie Louvu on the field for this kind of thing? You know what would have been great? You know what would have been great for this formation? There's one player we had a few years ago that would have loved the formation we're running right now. It's what he came from, and it's what he was in now. That's Hassan Reddick. And if we would have paid the man, you'd probably have one of the best front fours and front sevens around. But
yeah, but to be fair, Jack, we've never been able to stop Taysom Hill.
We're not gonna.
That was essentially their offense.
We've never in history of Taysom Hill. We've never stopped.
And they use that, and they know how much it pisses Panthers fans off because he doesn't get nearly as many touches. I feel like when he's playing other teams,
doesn't have to because the other teams actually play real enough defenses to actually stop that. But
yeah.
For us, for some reason, we have no idea how to stop a quarterback draw.
No, and I don't understand why we don't do it more. You saw the two of the biggest plays last night were Bryce Young getting open and running a lot farther than he needed to, and I'm like, all right, you have one of the smallest quarterbacks around. Spread a hole for him, and he can just pop right through.
I will say, if that's a big problem if those are your biggest plays of your offense.
Oh, it absolutely
is. That other night, those two scrambles being the biggest plays of your offense, bro, that's a big problem.
It absolutely is because we're not getting
the
out
worst
of the way,
problem. No, but to me, the worse than that is our red zone woes have continued. We cannot seem to get in the end zone. I think we're allergic to the end zone.
It's funny because then, like, whether it's a metric of they are just, like, taking, their foot off the gas on defense towards the end of the game, like, that's what those late game touchdowns aggravate me more than they make me happy because I'm like, all right, what you clearly had a game plan put in place to drive downfield because that was still a long drive when they scored there at the end. It wasn't off of a turnover or a punt or anything. It was a long touchdown drive. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, what changed? That Mingo route was wide open on the corner. There was nowhere near him for a mile.
Well, the change is we're playing prevent
on defense.
Yeah.
That's what the
change is. Like this, that's what that was. That's why you see everybody be as open. Because when have you ever seen any of those guys be that open?
Not at no other point in the game. Even and clearly, and I don't understand why they don't want to push the ball downfield more. At least at the very least, try to get a DPI. I mean, because Bryce is overthrowing him because he wants him to be deep.
Well, I'm asking the question like, how healthy is Charlie? Like, because he got the one catch on the drive.
Yep.
Doesn't get another target.
Nope.
But he is out there on the field.
60%. 60%.
Can't go. So you think he's running 60%?
60.
Yeah.
60.
And that sounds about right for a guy coming off a hamstring. Those injuries take a while before you fully get back to form. Well, I need Terrace out there.
That's what, tell me who got the majority of the targets last night.
Thielen?
Thielen, yeah.
And what are we setting that number at? Majority? I'm like 7, 8.
I mean, to be 100% honest, you could say conceivably Bryce spread the ball around, but who did we see out there? That's my whole point. Hayden Hurst had 2 catches? Thielen had 2 catches. Shark had the 1.
3 or 4, I think. Yeah.
And did TMJ and did Terrace Marshall
he didn't register a catch.
He did not have a single reception.
I was about to say he didn't get a catch, right?
Nope.
No,
what does that say about
target either?
Yeah. What does that say about the play calling? What does that again goes back to our original point? What does that say about the play calling? What does that say about the playbook? What does that say about the scheme? And I hate to say it, I saw the quote last night that he feels it's best that he calls the plays right now. I'm gonna call BS on that. I don't think it's in the best interest of the team for you to call the plays. Because I think, to your point, Jack, you made it earlier, I think they're handcuffing Bryce to keep him safe. And he doesn't play safe. He's never. If you've seen him ever, he's never played safe. You have to let him kind of ball and let him embrace the NFL as much as the NFL wants to embrace him. Right now, you're trying to keep him kind of glued and in this little bubble. It's kind of like you're a toddler, right? You don't want him to walk out in the street. Nah, you got to put him out in the street, let him taste a little bit of dirt, and that's what they're gonna have to let Bryce do. Because to me, Bryce looks nervous. He looks scared. He looks like he doesn't. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, they told me not to do that. He's thinking too much. He needs to be able to let loose and just get out there and ball.
He was the exact opposite of the guy that we thought we were drafting. You know what I'm saying? And I think it does play into Jason's point. You have to be handcuffing him, and it is too much thought being put into how you want to play him. Because I'm not seeing the guy that, at least from his emotional regulation is great, and he does a good job of keeping his emotions kind of bottled in.
You can start to see it trickling down.
It's starting to show in his face. I never seen that out of a kid from Bama. But again, we know that was going to happen coming into the league anyway. But alongside struggling, they're not letting you do what you do best, and that's got to be a frustrating feeling for a guy that's this talented.
And aren't we tired of that story in the NFL lately? You can tell it time and time again about these college or these NFL coaches trying to take what these kids did and make them do something different. You saw it with Cam. You see it with Patrick Mahomes, and they try to make him act like an actual quarterback. You see it with guys like RG3. You see it with guys like, even Tua, where you try to make him do something that he's not supposed to do, that he's not trying to do. They want him to be a quarterback. They're athletes. They don't, as long as the ball gets down the field and they're completing passes, you can call them whatever you want. But they're not trying to play like you're wanting them to play, and it creates, he looks uncomfortable. You can see him second-guessing himself, second-guessing his instincts, because his instinct is to go out there and make a play. But they're telling you, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to implement an NFL, style of offense, but you have to, if you're going to take a chance and move up for a guy like this, you didn't move up to get a guy like Kenny Pickett or Will Levis that you can plug and play into your system. You have to work to what they are strongest at doing. And like you said, that's what we've said, making those moves, having that playmaking ability, being, a guy that can improvise. So that's where, like we talked about it again, the thing that allowed for Patrick Mahomes to be successful was having an incredibly fast wide receiver who could run all over the field before your defensive back even gets to him, and then a reliable big body pass catcher in Travis Kelce. You've got someone in that vein with Hayden Hurst, I believe, as long as he can stay healthy, if you use him correctly. But then it goes back to, again, your questions from Fitterer. If you have this guy who's had this type of wide receiver the longest time, why trade away that type of wide receiver to get him and then not pay the guy that you said you wanted to keep instead? When you could have had the reversal of it, pick up somebody else who could pass rush, because there's a brevy of them out there that were looking for contracts this year. Yeah. And you could have kept your wide receiver that would have been able to run these kind of improvisational routes that benefit Bryce Young.
Well, here's one thing that I think that may help him, and if this offensive contingent uses him correctly, I think he can come in and really help us out. I think Tariq Cohen is going to be somebody that we can use as that shifty person coming out the backfield. Even though he is small of stature, you saw what he did when he was with the Bears. I followed him back at A&T, and I know that the man can come in and help us out. The problem is, back to my original point, who's calling that play? Because who's not going to call that play. So are you going to allow as he says, it's a collaborative effort. If I hear him say that one more time, I'm going to bang my head against the wall. So if it's a collaborative effort, let the collaboration show on the field, right? That's my point. I do want to piggyback on a couple other things, though, that you guys are mentioning, too, that I totally agree with. I think when we talk about this receiving core and we talk about how we're coming to play with Bryce, a couple of positives I got from Bryce, right? He hasn't had a batted ball, which was the biggest worry of him coming into the league, right? He has not had a batted ball. And he's making good decisions, right? To me, he's making the proper decisions when he needs to. I think my negatives kind of supersede that, in that he holds the ball way too long. He's trying to, he thinks this is Alabama. Those windows are closing much faster, buddy. You got to let that thing go. And then also with that, I don't know what they're doing in the huddle, but why does he have to wait until 3 seconds left to try to get up underneath the center to try to hike the ball? There's a lot going on, and it goes back to your point, Shontis. We had just talked about it too. I think you mentioned it too. He's overthinking it too much. He's got to get in there. They need to have it. Give him 2 or 3 plays. Let him make the decision. Then check out of it to one of those other plays. But you're giving them too much, and when they're coming out of the huddle, we're already underneath 10 seconds, and we are. It's really, really worrying me now, even more so in week 2 than it did in week 1. We almost had 2 or 3 delayed games last night, even though it didn't happen. We almost. Yeah. I mean, we were right on the cusp of it.
I mean, you saw discombobulated. He's lining up under the guard,
Oh, yeah, you saw Miles Sanders pushed him over. Pushed him over.
Look, I ain't going to put too much on that, because that's a rookie move that's just going to happen. I understand why everyone's trying to flame him for it, but I guarantee you, if you go deep enough in the tape, you can see Fields doing something like that. If we really look hard enough.
We look hard enough at Fields, but we may just find out something that we may not want to know.
That we might
maybe the kid just can't cut it.
Yeah, it might be the reason why we kind of dodged that bullet. But I think, going forward, Bryce was not my biggest concern. And like we said, I think it's starting to switch. The narrative is starting to switch towards the coaching staff, and I said it in a joking manner, but I also kind of think we did it a little bit to ourselves, where we kind of, blew up what this could be in our heads. Right. Not without warrant. The team hyped itself up. The picks on paper were hyped up, but I think we kind of did a little bit to ourselves.
I'm going to tell you what did that, though. It was watching what Steve Wilson did with this team last year.
That's the damning thing.
And, again, you can't find me a good reason why I can watch Steve Wilks take a team go from 1-5 to finish at 7-10, seemingly having life on offense and seemingly having a sense of identity, and I come out with the offensive head coach that's supposed to be the guy that, you know, mentor my quarterback and bring him along, and we can't field an offense that looks like it should be on the NFL field. I think, and that was always going to be the battle that Frank Reich was going to climb, because there are a number of people that definitely wanted Steve Wilks, and again, the front office made it very clear that they weren't willing to support whatever Steve Wilks was trying to build, and that's why they weren't going to move forward with it, and they wanted the offensive-minded guy. Okay, well, you got the offensive-minded guy, you got this all-star coaching staff, which I told everybody, I'm like, brother, what does that mean, bro? Like, what does that even mean?
There's no first-team All-Pro coaching staff.
Right.
That doesn't exist.
And we've seen, and you don't necessarily need a bunch of guys that are looking to be head coaches on one staff. Like sometimes somebody's got to be a follower, somebody's got to be the leader, and maybe the guy that's the leader may not be fit to actually lead currently today. But again, like seeing what we saw last year, I'm seeing guys like Terrace who play well, Laviska who play well, Raheem Blackshear who play well, all last year under Steve Wilks, but can't touch the field now. Like, what happened? You got your guys, so you got all the rule guys out. Your guys are there. Why am I not seeing anything improve?
So, Shontis, I've got a theory, and my theory is we could have circumvented all of this 4 years ago. You know, I'm going back to our text chain.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted an offensive-minded coach, we had him in the building. He's got the Washington Commanders at 3-0 as an offensive coordinator. I'm going to let that sit and rest where it be. We let that one go, and then we had Steve Wilks in the building. Now, if you've got players coming to your front office to tell you they want to play for this man, at some point in time, you can't just go, I need an offensive-minded coach in your mind because that's what the media is telling you. That's what you think you need. You might want to listen to the players that actually play for the man, that help them get ready on Sundays and get on the field. And I think we did ourselves a disservice. Not saying Reich isn't being indicted yet. We're doing our investigations on Reich. But right now, Reich looks like he could be getting locked up in the next 30 days. I mean, I'm writing up. I'm pretty much about to put pen to paper on that one. I would say if we had Wilks, I think the vibe that we see on the side, on the field, and what we see on the field would be a lot different. I think there's a lot of people still learning. Miles Sanders said it best himself. We can only use, we're getting a new offense or a new team, but for so long. And we've got to start holding ourselves accountable. And the accountability is coming at Scott Fitterer, personnel-wise, and Frank Reich, calling plays. There's no in between on that.
I agree. I think that's, another one of the kind of faults we've seen from Tepper is that, the man's a businessman. He wants to sell tickets. He wants to put butts in the seats. What does that? Is offense. That's what he's trying. He wants high scoring affairs. He wants, 50, 60 point games to be able to sell this product that he has. He wants to be P.T. Barnum and have a circus on the field, but you've gotten the exact opposite with that, and to the point where you're having to pack up and run away like a real circus would each week because you're getting exposed as a fraud.
I mean, and not only that, you want to put butts in the seats, you want to sell tickets, win.
Yeah.
I'm not buying. I'm telling you right now, I ain't buying nothing until we start winning again. It's as simple as that. Like, I'm not buying anything that's not winning. You can put up all the points you want to, bro. Like, but at some point you're gonna have to win. Like that wow factor we used to have, we had it before. But again, tell me when Panthers fans truly started buying into that Rivera era, when we started to win.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way you're gonna get fans to buy back in. We haven't done it in a long time. Haven't done it since he's been the owner. So a lot of people feel like that maybe he needs to be the guy that goes before we can start winning again. But yeah, man, I wouldn't worry about selling tickets right now when you right now you're off to an 0-2 start and you didn't show up on a Monday night game that could have at least helped you if you played better.
I agree, but I gotta say this to Panthers fandom, and this could be something that is not a well agreed upon take. Don't boo your damn team on national television. I understand it's upsetting for that output. I'm sorry. You are 2 games into your supposedly franchise quarterback who's only ever had success as a football player, so that's not doing anything well for his psyche. And if you're trying to show that you're not a poverty franchise in a poverty NFL market, you do not boo your performance against a rival team on Monday Night Football for the first time in 5 years. Be upset, be disgruntled. do it in private on the drive home like you do after church, all right? Don't put us on blast like that. You're doing nothing for yourself, and that's not going to make anybody perform better. Tell me when boos have ever made a team or a program perform better.
Let me defend the fans. Let me defend the fans.
I understand that. I agree with that, but I'm just saying.
Let me defend the fans. I don't think we were booing Bryce Young. I think 100% we were booing. I think we were booing the way we were playing and the plays that were called. A lot of the boos you heard, a lot of the boos that came were on them. I was about to cuss. Thank God I have restraint. Was on those runs we kept running through the middle. Like, dude, all night, all freaking night. You didn't run into the outside. You didn't run into the outside. You didn't show any sort of variability. I mean, honestly and truthfully, I could have got any high school coach to load the box. He's gonna run it on third down. He's about to run it on third down. He's about to run it on first down. Oh, I can see this coming a mile away. All day long.
I agree with you, and I'm just as disgruntled as the next fan. Don't doubt that for a second. All I'm saying is you waited 2.5 years for the most part to boo Matt Rule. You didn't take more than 2 weeks to boo Steve Wilkes. We saw that happen. I'm just the patience was so long for Matt Rule from an in the building standpoint. Now, luckily he had the pandemic to give him a cushion so that no one could boo him because no one was in the building. Right. But even coming back, he still didn't get boos in his second game with the team and his second game with fans being able to be back in the stadium. So that's where I'm like, I understand you have been, but this is where I know what kind of fans are packing that stadium, the majority of. Like, we're not, strangers to mediocrity, and I get that doesn't make it any better, but I don't understand where the surprise comes from. I get you want to see better product from your team. I'm just saying that's a maybe high horse for me to stand on. It doesn't sit well with me when you're trying to all they say on Twitter, all they say we get disrespected by the national media, we get disrespected by him and her. Well, no wonder you're getting disrespected. It has to have to do with what the product is on the field, but it has to do with also how fair weather fans this city facilitates. You saw the fan base dumped in half.
I would have booed last night.
Trust me, I was booing in my head from the press box, but that's
I would have been loud.
Doing.
I would have been loud booing.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest. Anybody with any sense isn't booing Bryce Young, though. That's the thing.
Exactly. You don't know that. The boos don't come with a name tag.
They don't come with a name tag, but I think we're all watching. We all know the guy we watched in Alabama for the last 2 years, and we know the product that's being put out there by Frank Reich. And Frank Reich has a history. It's not like he's the only guy with a history right now. Frank Reich is the only guy that we've seen that's put out putrid offenses before.
Yeah.
That's gotten ran out of the building before. Like, this is him. We're looking at him and saying, hey, look, dog, what's this?
And it wouldn't have been as bad, Jack. It wouldn't have been as bad. It wouldn't have been as bad if he didn't say.
We know we have this history because he got scapegoated in Indianapolis, and I understand people are like, right, he was just getting blame put on. But I was one of the first to say it when we got it. I was like, okay, this is out of the guys we had in the building, this wasn't necessarily my first pick. And we even said we were going to start interviewing him. Like, really? We're going to interview the guy that just got dumped out of Indianapolis?
We all agreed. And I wanted to go back and listen to the episode when we were going through the coaching search. None of us.
No.
Not one of us had him on the list.
No.
We had three, four guys I know for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we can name them. I mean, Shane Steichen.
Yep.
Ben Johnson.
Eric
Bieniemy.
I mean,
Steve
and
Wilkes.
then Steve Wilkes. Yeah.
We none of us had him on the list.
Jack, I know we're used to mediocrity, and we shouldn't. We're just to the point that we don't want to accept it. And it wouldn't be as bad as if Frank Reich didn't get up there and say during preseason, "Oh, we've got more in the tank. We've got more in the bag.
Yeah.
This is just what we're doing to fill out." And buddy, so where's all this other robustness?
Yeah.
Where is it?
What are we waiting for?
Right. Like, this ain't preseason. We're 0-2. We're at the bottom of the division. Everybody else is 1. Everybody else is 2-0 in our division.
Yeah.
We're the kicker. We are the punching bag. So what you gonna do now? Because we're about to go to Seattle next week. We got to travel a long way to get our butts whipped and look like we looked on Monday night.
And I'll be surprised if I see a Panthers jersey in that field.
You got to take a quarterback into the 12th man.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. He was in an inhospitable environment in Atlanta. And by the time, I don't even have a problem with the boos necessarily, but the time frame in which they were booing, the 3 and out was bad. It was still a 6-point game at that time, 7-point game. You're only a touchdown down with halfway through the third quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no.
So he's going to be in inhospitable environments no matter what, and he's not used to that.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm not worried about coddling him. I'm just saying, what do you think is going to happen?
He's been playing in stadiums in the SEC long enough, and they are definitely more hostile than any NFL environment you can put in.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Let's not do this. Like, he'll be fine. But I think everybody's looking and watching, and even on the broadcast, you'll hear like, man, like, damn, when are they gonna take a shot down the field?
Yeah, no.
Man, when are they gonna try this?
Orlovsky was ripping us a new one.
As he should.
He should have.
As he very well should. Yeah. So then, looking forward into that Seattle game as we start to wrap up. I just, we had, our mindsets and the way we had our record going out, and none of us picked us to win this game going forward. What is our outlook going into this week?
Can you open up the offense some? Can we get that? I just need to see improvement at this point. I'm all for wins and losses. I've already accepted what this is about to be, at least for the first 6 weeks. Can you open up the offense a bit more? Can we see a little bit more creativity from the offense? Can I see the guys I didn't see last week? I need to see those guys play this week, because I think the guys you rolled out there with the lack of variety with the personnel, that can't be what we see we can't see that for back-to-back weeks. Defensively, I don't know. Hopefully, you can get to the quarterback, bro. I don't really have much to say because I just don't see this thing going well, to be honest.
For me, I'm all in on Shontis' comment around the offense. We can't talk about what we've got and how it's a process and it's progress. Your progress is over. Your process is over. You need to show us whatever was in that bag that you did in training camp that we didn't see in preseason. We need to see that on Sunday. Defensive, you already know what I'm going to say. Good luck, secondary. Liability alley. I want some assets at the end, but I doubt it. I think we're going to get blown up in that secondary. We got to put pressure on Geno, though. But I think if we get to Geno is not the type of quarterback that once you put a couple of hats on him, he'll slow down. He'll start thinking twice. He's not, I've seen that historically. But it's going to be a problem. We got a tall task in front of us, especially going west, especially the fact that we're traveling. So that's another caveat too. That's going to be a big thing that's going to be against us.
Especially on a short week. That doesn't make things any better
for sure.
All. And that's where I do get concerned, because defensively, I'd put us up there with the Lions. I'd say that, barring, of course, our health, I'd say we had the ability to perform as well as the Lions did against Seattle. But that game was a shootout. We do not have the firepower for a shootout, as we've shown. And, free agency is going to be very telling to see where they want, what their priorities are. I would be I would not be optimistic about free agency in terms of making big moves. I know who everyone's wanting to see come through the door. I don't think that person's going to come through the door, and it'd be awesome if he did, but I don't think it's going to happen. So you can kind of just write that off right now. I think that, it's going to continue to show how little depth we have on defense, and just like how we've said, how little firepower we truly have on offense. And for me, I know there's a point of pride, like I obviously was just talking about a little while ago, but play desperate. Swing for the fences, either get either strike out and be fine with that because what was going to happen anyway, or at the very least get some surprise plays out there where you can get catch someone off guard and send someone downfield. We've seen that, especially with a guy like Mingo. I want them to run Mingo out a bit more. I need to see him get going more, because the last 2 weeks we've seen them be plays where he is able to get behind defenders and actually make some space. Right. I know he's not supposed to be the fast one, but he was the one, he was the guy we were praying for to be the next coming of the Ole Miss wide receiver. And if you can pull some sort of, A.J. Brown-esque nature from him, then you're set. Then you've got that duo that we've been talking about. For a guy that was our second-round pick to be so, underutilized, especially with a guy like Chark out, but then everyone's getting underutilized, so I don't even know where you go with it. I just want there to be some sort of desperation on offense. Don't start every drive with a halfback read. Right. It's not gonna. You do not dare go into Seattle and think that you're gonna get some easy yards off of a halfback read. It's not gonna happen. Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard are not gonna get you through that front four and that front seven. It just won't work. And so if there is any area of ambiguity on that defense, you'd put it in the cornerbacks and you'd put it in their defensive back group. And so that's where I'm like, all right, just swing for the fences, go big or go home, and live and die by what you're trying to do. At least show me, because then you can sit up there on the podium and talk all you want about, we have the pieces, we can put up 28 points, we're able to do that because you've shown me you've at least tried. Don't have a halfback read and say, well, the pieces are there. Where are these pieces? What puzzle are you looking at? Because clearly we're all not seeing the same picture on the box. So that's hopefully what we will see from it. I don't want to even give a score prediction because I don't. You know how we always used to say, oh, well, it's Seattle. We've always played really well against Seattle, or we've also, it's always been a close game with Seattle. Even back, when Cam was half dead playing in that last 2019, or even when we were putting up Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, we still were at least, actually, I can't even believe that we got a win against Seattle last year. That still shocks me to my core. But this is not going to be one of those games where this is not going to be one of these rivalry Saints or Seahawks Panthers games. And it's not going to be what it is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give a score. I don't see us winning. I'm just praying it's not a blowout. And I hope we get it. I hope we get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Can we get in the end zone?
You'll get one late.
Shontis,
yeah.
I don't even, man. You don't even make me feel comfortable with the way you said that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I got 30-13. UBC Hawks.
I was gonna say 28-10. That's what I was going that same route.
Okay,
right,
30-13, 28-10. I'm going 21-3.
I'm hoping 31. I'm hoping 30-13. Maybe close somewhere.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I'm hoping I could run the table on at least a early drive touchdown. A surprising. They're not ready yet. Touchdown at the first drive, or that just garbage time touchdown there at the end. And Pinero, I mean, he's playing like an all-pro kicker. Yeah. He's good for at least 2 or 3. If you ain't got a kicker on fantasy, pick up Pinero because he's getting some points on the board.
We got to get across the 50. We got to get across the 50 to get a man a chance. 21-3.
Yeah, and it ain't gonna be Smith-Marset carrying us across the 50. I can tell you that right now. I think there is room. Like I said, it's not all doom and gloom. I don't think. It's just gonna be the problem because there is gonna be that softer spot in the middle of the season. It's really hard to be optimistic when you see the group of games we got coming in the forefront.
Right.
Going through, going to the bye week is just brutal. And then you finally get some life after that, some break after the bye week, and then you round out pretty poorly too. So I think that's what's kind of causing this dismay is just seeing how we performed in preseason and these last 2 weeks. And yes, it does suck where we stand necessarily right now in the standings, but look at 0-2 is 0-2. The Bengals were 0-2 last year. Able to make it to the championship.
Really, Jack?
Look at, I'm just saying.
Jack, really, Jack? That's what you gonna do.
There's a statistical, what's the word I'm looking for? Law term, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Precedent. There's a statistical precedent set for having poor starts to your year and then able to pull something around in terms of how your schedule goes. I'm not saying it's going to happen anywhere close, but don't go straight to the fire.
I'm not going to be nuclear. But Shontis, we said we cannot come out of these first 4 weeks 0-4. And buddy, I think we shot ourselves in the foot by saying that.
I was going to say, I think you can take a mulligan on that one and re-amend your statement if you'd like to, because I don't know what your punishment for us going 0-4 was, but it's going to happen. So maybe you want to push back that marker. We can't go 0-6. We can't go 0-16.
Just give me 6 wins and I'll be happy, bro. I'll be honest.
We'll have to revisit how that we had that. We said all of us had going 500. We'll have to revisit that number as we get to the bye week.
Yeah.
But, of course, until then, try to hold your heads up, keep your spirit alive, and keep pounding.